This graph we have 4 tangent pi over 3x. We're going to find the period and the phase shift. Period is the pi over b. In this case, the b is pi over 3. So by formula, I'm going to have pi over 3. And so if I flip and multiply, I find that the period is equal to 3 because the pi's are going to cancel out there. For the phase shift, okay, phase shift is c over b minus, we have pi over 2b is the formula for that. Again, only tangent graphs require this extra fraction on the end here, okay? So don't forget to do that part for tangent graphs. Let's put the information. Now c, we notice that there is no value that comes after the x. So when that occurs, if there's no value that comes afterwards, our c is 0. So we have 0 over b, okay, which in this case our b is pi over 3. So we can put that in there. It's going to end up being 0 anyway, but we'll go ahead and put that in there. Then we have minus pi over 2 times b. 2 times pi over 3 we're going to put into that formula. Let's simplify what we have now. Now this part's all going to be 0, so that part's going to go away. So really all we have left is that part. So we end up with negative pi over 2 pi over 3. If you flip and multiply that, then you're going to get 3 over 2 pi. The pi's cancel out, and you get negative 3/2 all the way over there on the end. That's going to be your phase shift. So let's write that up here. Phase shift is equal to negative 3 over 2. That's always going to be your first key point. Now to find the other key points, we have to find the half point. We're just going to keep adding the half point to the phase shift. So although it doesn't ask for that here, let's go ahead and find that. So half point, a half point is going to be equal to the period, which is 3, divided by 2. So in this case, your half point is going to be 3/2. So what we'll do next is we have to find the other key points. We're going to start with the phase shift of negative 3/2, and then we're just going to keep adding the half point to it until we find the other ones. Okay, so let's do that now. The first key point is negative 3/2, but you're going to add the half point to it. So now our third key point is going to be 0. Let's find the other ones. So now that we have all this, I'm going to erase this for some space and then continue. 0 plus 3/2 is equal to 3/2. 3/2 plus 3/2 is going to be 6/2. Now I could reduce that, but I'm just going to leave it to make it easier for adding the last one. 6/2 plus 3/2 is going to be equal to 18/2. Okay, 9/2. Sorry, 9/2. Okay, so now these are all your key points. Now negative 3/2 is your first key point, and then we have these other 4 that come after that. Let's draw that and do the graph. I have negative 3/2, 0, 3/2, 6/2, and 9/2. We can draw in the y-axis is going to go right through there at 0. And then the way this is set up is it's always the first one, the third one, and the last one is the one that gets the vertical asymptotes. Negative 3/2 has one. There's one at positive 3/2, and there's one at 9/2. Now the graph is going to look the same as the base graph that we originally talked about, to where it's going to rise and go this way. Now, we have a 4 in front of it. So the question is, how does that now affect our graph? Well, the way that works here is I'm going to go ahead, let's go ahead and put in some tick marks here to indicate 4 and negative 4. The way this works is the half point between 0 and 3 over 2, the graph is going to go through and hit the 4. At the halfway point between these two, it's going to go through at negative 4, because again the graph kind of rises and does that. That's how the 4 is affected. Remember, the 4, we don't really have an amplitude here. Okay, so we don't have amplitudes with tangent and cotangent graphs. But what it does do is it's a stretch. A vertical stretch is what that 4 does. So what will happen is the graph is going to follow this one here. It's going to go through there, and then it'll hit this one and kind of go out like that. Make this a little bit darker here. And that's what that's going to do. Now we could go ahead and find the coordinates for those, but I'm not going to ask for that level of detail for these kind of problems. But as far as choosing a correct graph or knowing where it goes through, these points right here is where it would cross through. Likewise, the other one, because that's one period, we have to do 2 periods. The second one, again, the halfway point right here is going to hit at 4, and the other one's going to hit at negative 4 down here. So that's what that number out front does. That's the A value, is this vertical stretch. So it goes like this. It's going to go through there, hit this point, and kind of go up like that. So as you can see that these look more stretched out than the original base graph that we had from before. So that's what that does, is it does a stretch in there vertically.